Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at a tropical storm here, your first tropical storm of the year, Tropical Storm Arthur here. And this is going to be impacting parts of the southeastern coast, and potentially it could make its way towards the northeast coast. We'll have to see about that. I'll be talking about more of that later on in today's video. We're also going to look at my personal hurricane forecast and storm track forecast. And we're going to be looking at a couple of these models to see what they are looking at. So here's the current National Weather Service page quickly, and we have some hydrologic outlooks over parts of the northwestern United States. We have some flood watches, flood warnings, and flash flood warnings over parts of the Great Lakes and parts of the central United States. Red flag warnings in place in that darker pink. As you get into the lighter pink, that's where you actually have so much storm warnings over the higher terrain over parts of California, and then even winter weather advisories as you get further south. Wind advisories throughout Nevada, California, and Oregon, as well as a little bit there for Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky here. So here's your Weather Prediction Center page, and this is showing you where Tropical Storm Arthur currently is, and it's basically just east of southeastern Georgia. So pretty much if you draw a straight line from about Jacksonville, Florida, eastward, that's where Tropical Storm Arthur currently is hanging out, and it's going to be making its way. Most of the models show it briefly touching parts of North Carolina, the Outer Banks, and moving its way eastward. A couple of these models want to actually make this loop inwards, and that could potentially pose some strong winds to the immediate coastal areas of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. So we'll look at that in just one moment. Here's your current infrared loop here, and this is showing you how cold your cloud tops are. And you see anywhere in those reds and even into those blacks that you're starting to see pop up in those grays, that's where you're seeing very cold cloud tops. And what a cold cloud top means is that you're actually seeing rising clouds, and that will indicate a strengthening system. Now, this does look very subtropical in nature. This is not going to become a tropical storm. It's still technically a subtropical storm here because of how unorganized it is. You don't have a really defined a defined eye of the storm. You'll also have many of the thunderstorms on the eastern side of this, and really it's not very well distributed, and most of your strongest winds are also on that eastern side. You also see it's mainly just unorganized thunderstorms, which you can kind of see on the southeastern quadrant of this storm. That's where you're seeing mainly just some unorganized thunderstorms here. So it's really nothing too potent here. It's a very unorganized system. Now we'll just look at a different loop of this, and this is your satellite imagery as of this morning, and you're seeing we do have a fairly defined area of low pressure system. You can kind of see some sort of an eye trying to be picked out here. You can see an area of rotation here moving across, but it's very hard to pinpoint here because of all that cloud cover above it. So you also have a bit of wind shear that it was actually trying to move through, but then you got that dry air to kind of move in. That suppressed all that all of the wind shear there, and that actually helped enhance this system to a tropical storm. Now, here is your current sea surface temperatures, and this is going to be very important to the development of this system. You see, we usually want 80-degree Fahrenheit temperatures or 26-degree Celsius sea surface temperatures, and you see anywhere in those yellows, oranges, and reds, that's where you're meeting that threshold, and that would usually be what you want if you want to see a hurricane. Now, we do see a little bit of that, and this is the most recent one. This is as of late or early, very early this morning, and you see we have a little bit of that snaking in off the coast of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. But for the most part, it's just below that. But it's even though it's just a subtropical storm, so it really doesn't need as much fuel to get this thing going, and most of it is going to be moving off to the east and pretty much offshore. But if it does take that northwestern turn once we hit about the Outer Banks of North Carolina, it'll be moving into very cold waters that are about 40 degrees Fahrenheit here, 30 degrees Fahrenheit as we get into the coastal areas of Delaware, New Jersey, into Long Island, and through Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. Those sea surface temperatures are very cold, and it's really not going to be able to sustain remain a subtropical entity. So I really don't think it, even if it does make its way to the northwest, it's really not going to have too much fuel to go off, and it's really going to die out as soon as it makes impact with those really cold sea surface temperatures over parts of the northeast and the mid-Atlantic. So here's your current cone of uncertainty from the National Hurricane Center. And you see, we do actually have anywhere where it has a labeled S there, that's where they're indicating that this is a tropical storm or subtropical storm here. Anywhere in those blues across the Outer Banks of North Carolina, that's where we have tropical storm warnings. And in that yellow shaded area, that's where we have tropical storm winds. And that's on the eastern side of it. That's again where we had those strongest winds. Now, this is going to be moving through Tuesday and then all the way to about Wednesday and Thursday. And then you kind of see the National Hurricane Center playing it safe, putting this out to the east. But we actually do have a couple of these models actually putting this either going straight northward or going a little bit west. We have a couple of these models, and these are more of the unreliable models, and these don't really go with the rest of them. Most of them having it go off to the east, and this is your model track. So this is a bunch of models put on one map, and this is indicating where they're placing this system. And you see most of them have it going to the east, so really not too big of a deal. The only real area, if most of these models are correct with it going to the east, that will be impacted will be parts of the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And also make sure you aren't going to those beaches across the southeast coast this weekend, because it is really going to be some rough seas out there because of this subtropical entity here. So here is your GEFS tracks, and these are your GFS ensembles. You have more of these models trying to go onshore, but still majority of these models have it going off to the east. And you see, even when they do go onto land, they are very weak at this point. The higher this number is, that means that that's the weaker the system. And you see, as it gets into those cold waters off the shore of New Jersey, off the shore of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and down through Delaware, Maryland, that's where it's getting into those colder waters. And you see, it automatically goes to about a 1010 millibar low pressure system, which is very, very weak. And that wouldn't really cause too much of a threat, except for probably some rough seas throughout that area. Now, here's the GEPS tracks, and this is another ensemble model, and we see a lot of these moving off to the east. And then as we look at your model intensity guidance here, we do have most of them. It is currently a weak tropical storm here, subtropical storm, but it's going to be heightening to about 50 to 60 knots, which would be about 60 or so miles per hour. And that would be at the height, and that's mainly going to be offshore to the east of that system, or again on the eastern side of that system. That's where you had the highest wind speeds. Here's your current forecast from Noaa in terms of your rainfall throughout the next 48 hours. And you see over parts of the Outer Banks of North Carolina, maybe 1 to about 4 inches of rainfall there. Now, here's your wind speed probability forecast, and you see we do have a slight chance, again, for those coastal areas, the highest chance, again, for the Outer Banks of North Carolina, but we do have a slight chance of about 5 to about 30% chance for the eastern coastal areas to get grazed with some tropical storm force wind speeds, which is above 39 miles per hour, and that would definitely be potentially damaging for some areas, but it doesn't look, even if you do see those tropical storm force winds, it won't be for long, and it will probably go away quite quickly. Now, here is your chance for 50-knot wind speeds, and this would be 50-knot wind speeds, and this is would be at the center of this storm. And you see that just grazes parts of North Carolina with about a 5 to about 20% probability of seeing those of those 50-knot wind speeds, of which is 58 miles per hour there. Here is your current reconnaissance, which they did early this morning here, and they actually, this is showing their track here. So they started in on the northwestern side, they moved into parts of the storm, and then they made way north, and then they went southwest again. So what these different colored wind barbs are showing is first the direction of the winds. So the winds coming out of the southwest on the western side of this, and then they kind of shift direction. So you can definitely tell where this low pressure system is right here in the center. here. And then these different colored wind barbs, these are indicating different wind speeds, and the greens and the even the yellows that you start to see on the eastern side of this is indicating those very strong wind speeds of about between 34 and about 50 knots, which is about 60 miles per hour here. So uh, here we go. Here's your key messages from the National Hurricane Center. They are first saying a tropical storm warning is now in effect for portions of the North Carolina coast, Outer Banks there, and the tropical storm force winds and heavy rains are expected there on Monday. Again, between 1 and I would say about 2 or 3 inches throughout the Outer Banks. Now, to actually go back, your second key message is dangerous coastal surf conditions and rip currents are expected to spread northward from Florida to the mid-Atlantic states during the next few days. See products from your local National Weather Service forecast office for more details there. Now, this is your hurricane discussion, or your tropical storm discussion here from the National Hurricane Center, and you can go stop this and read it out, but it's really just going in depth on what they are actually looking at, and they are talking about the potential for those strong winds to move on to the coastal eastern United States. Now, here is my personal forecast here in terms of tropical storm or subtropical storm Arthur here, and this lighter pink, that's indicating my cone of uncertainty, which you see is quite large because we do have that possibility of it moving to the east coast, but that darker pink line is really where I expect this storm to track, and you see that's very far to the east of this cone of uncertainty. That's just because I don't really expect a coastal impact from this too much. It could graze again the North Carolina coast, but then I think it really moves to the north and to the east, and it's pretty much out of here by that point, so it's really not too big of a deal as it gets out to sea. Now, here's my intensity forecast, and you see these light green dots. These are indicating tropical storm force wind speeds or post-tropical wind speeds, and you do see I do have those dotted across this line, and I think that's going to be going all the way through Tuesday and Wednesday night. But by that time, it'll be way off to sea, and really we don't have too much to worry about. Anyways, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications to remember this video when I do upload. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.